So as usual, being unsatisfied with the lack of Scream 5 news coming in, and Neve Campbell's outright denial of being in negotiations to return, I've been doing a little bit of sleuthing and found something that might give us some insight into the future of both the Scream and Hellraiser franchises. Hello my Ghostface fiends, Zach Cherry here. Guys, I started this channel because I'm a huge horror geek, and if you're like me, you might want to consider hitting that subscribe button and ringing the little bell thingy too, so you and I can become YouTube official. Just for shits and gigs, give this video a thumbs up and meet me in the comment section down below to let me know if you think that Neve Campbell and the others will be coming back for Scream 5 or not. So before we get into any of this, I just want to start off by correcting myself from something that I said in my last video. I mentioned that Spyglass Media Group didn't have an official website. Well, they do. It was right in front of my face, and I don't know how I managed to miss this while I was editing. However, if you go to the website, there really isn't anything new or relevant, basically just two separate press releases from a year ago, which are about the company's relaunch and partnership with Lantern Entertainment, and then another one about the studio securing Warner Brothers as a strategic investor. Now, as you know, if you've been following Scream 5 news, Spyglass currently owns the rights to both the Scream and Hellraiser franchises. If you don't know anything about Spyglass and how they acquired the franchise rights and why that may or may not be a good thing, I recommend you watch this video. It will give you a lot more insight into Scream 5's current landscape, as I know there's a lot of misinformation floating around out there. I heard someone say that Wes Craven's estate owned the Scream franchise, which is not true and makes absolutely no sense. So watch that video next. I'll put a link down in the description. I'll also include a link down there to my last video, which is more to do with the direction I believe the franchise is moving towards, as well as what we can expect from Spyglass in general. So now that we can kind of rule out the official website for offering us any sort of information at this time, we do need to remember that Spyglass has yet to make any sort of official announcement or offer a press release about the upcoming Scream movie. We only know about it because it's pretty well known throughout Hollywood that they had acquired all the rights to the Weinstein Company's movie library and would be working on producing a new Scream movie. They also are working on what is said to be a remake of Hellraiser, which has already signed David S. Goyer as a writer, whose previous works include the Dark Knight trilogy. But that information is also almost a year old, and nothing new has come to light about it. So this is where I started to do a little bit of my own digging. Obviously, in this day and age, official websites don't drive as much traffic as social media accounts. So I've been keeping my eyes peeled for any sort of Spyglass Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, to see if I can glean a little bit more information about the current status of their relaunch, which I do still believe will be a rebranding as a horror movie studio to compete with Blumhouse, who currently has a large monopoly on the horror movie market. If you look on Instagram, there's an account with the handle _Spyglass Entertainment _, which is the company's old name and has a profile pic of their original studio logo. There is no content on this account, they aren't following anyone, and only have a handful of followers themselves. But what's interesting is that when you go look at who's following them, you'll immediately notice the verified account, which is signified by the blue checkmark icon. And if you look to see who that account belongs to, you'll notice that it's none other than Ashley Lawrence, who played Kirsty Cotton in the original Hellraiser movie. I did send a message to the account asking if this was the official Instagram for Spyglass Media Group, but I've yet to hear anything back, and don't imagine that I will, but will definitely keep you guys posted if I do. I find it very peculiar that Ashley Lawrence would be following this account, especially considering that there's no content on their grid, but there are two possibilities I can deduce from this. One, Ashley Lawrence knows that Spyglass currently holds the Hellraiser rights and wants to come back, so she followed them in order to reach out to them. Or two, she's following them because she met with someone who works for Spyglass, they're in negotiations, and this proposed Hellraiser remake will actually be more of a reboot that will see her character return to the franchise and be a continuation of probably the first or second movie, very similar to what they did with Halloween 2018. If that's the reason why she's connected to this account, that's a very promising lead, as it suggests that Spyglass is interested in making these movies for the fans, and not just as something mainstream or for mass appeal. And if the way they can do this is by bringing back actors from the original movies and making these legacyquels, then I think it's more than likely that they've reached out to Neve Campbell as well, possibly the other Scream actors too. If we go by the rumors that were circulating a few months back, which suggested that they had been in talks, then we can presume Courtney Cox and David Arquette were also approached. These legacy sequels are very much a thing right now, with Halloween Kills and Candyman coming out this year, because they do appeal to both fans and mainstream audiences, and I think Spyglass is probably going to follow this trend while it's hot. Now obviously this is something that Neve Campbell has expressly denied. She and David Arquette both made similar statements about not having received a phone call, and Neve Campbell followed that up more recently at the Mad Monster Party convention, where she went on about having not been contacted and thinking that it would be very difficult for them to continue on with the franchise without Wes Craven. Now, a lot of people are taking her word at face value, but personally, I don't buy it. First of all, until we get an official press release, we're not gonna know anything. We didn't know Jamie Lee Curtis would be back for Halloween 2018, and we all found out at the same time because the whole thing was kept extremely well under wraps. And I don't see why the Scream franchise would be doing things any differently. If she was in negotiations with them, she more than likely would have signed a non-disclosure, which means that she'd be giving us the same answer whether it was happening or not. She's also an actor, which means that she can recite lines and make them sound believable. So yeah, she could be telling us the truth or not, but until we know for certain, I'm convinced that she knows a lot more than she's letting on. And if it turns out that I was wrong and there's not going to be a legacyquel, but rather a Scream make, then I will gladly eat crow. But just know that you should be taking everything with a giant grain of salt until it's been made official. I'm going to put a card up in the corner to a playlist for you guys to check out some of my other Scream related content. There's lots of news about Scream 5, but also some fun things like rankings of all the Ghostface killers. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Zach Cherry, and I'll be right back.